Hey everybody, it's Cinnamon Cooney, your art Sherpa, and today I'm going to be sharing with you this fabulous painting, The Winter Roses. This is a gorgeous set of blooms with a cute little butterfly and a twig. We're going to even do a snow effect for you guys if you want to do it. On the mic is my husband, John.
Hi guys.
He's going to be tracking me with my camera so you can see every step of the process, because the idea is that I paint a thing, you paint a thing, I paint a thing, you paint a thing, and at the end of that, hopefully you get a painting that you really like that looks like this one for yourself to hang at home. I'm going to sip some coffee because clearly I need it this morning. Goodness gracious,
Ooh.
John. I'm flummoxed.
We had the gnomes that were just, they were trying to get out and, they wanted to leave and there was this whole confusion about who got coffee first and,
I
you know,
get coffee first.
I know. So,
Before the gnomes, before all, I get coffee.
rank has its privilege.
So one of the things you guys are excited about in this piece is the very soft background, which can be really challenging for acrylic artists. I'm going to break down how I achieve that and how you can achieve that at home too. A little tip or advice that I would give you, if this is a brand new technique that you haven't ever tried before, try it on a practice canvas, a space where you can go, I'm not going to worry about getting this exact shape or this exact color. I'm going to worry about getting this effect. And when I'm good at this effect, then I'm going to take it to the canvas and do the tutorial. So I would wholly recommend to you, observe the techniques, practice them, get comfortable with them, and then jump into the tutorial. You're going to get a result that you like a lot better
Hmm.
if you apply that strategy. But of course, you're just welcome to follow along too. If you're like, no, I don't really like to do a practice thing. I got to jump all in and see how it works out. Because sometimes people just got to jump right off and jump into the cold water and see how it is. And that's okay too. Pretty much however you want to do it is okay. I'm going to be showing you how to really get these gorgeous flowers. They were easier than you might think. I think easier than any of the flower tutorials where the flowers are more advanced than I put on my channel so far. So I'm really excited about this. And of course, this really adorable butterfly. So sadly, I'm going to put this out of your sight and into my sight line, but good news, there's picture in picture. Our palette today is going to be Indian Yellow, Burnt Sienna, Titanium White, Zinc White, Quinacridone Magenta, Phthalo Blue, Prussian Blue, and Diox Purple. To get the splatter, I'm going to be using my Titanium White Golden Fluid Paint, which is really nice. It's already ready to flick, and my Galaxy Splatter Brush. Also, I have all of the brushes listed in the description below, so you can see everything I used. I really kind of made a record of everything that I used for this, so you could really, really duplicate it. As for exchanges, you can use whatever warm yellow you have. If you don't have Indian yellow, you're going to get just different colors. You don't have to have Prussian blue, but if you're going to add just a little bit of black to your blue, it's going to give you a slightly different effect, but that doesn't mean the painting isn't going to be great. So while I do highly recommend that you get the, at least, doesn't have to be the brands I use by any means, but at least the type of paint or color that I'm recommending to get the exact result, it's also okay to just use what you have. So be easy about it. I'm going to be doing this, that said, on a gesso board by Ampersand. These are artist panels. The surface is really wonderful for painting with acrylic, and it does help me get the effect. It makes it easier. Doesn't mean I couldn't get it on a different type of surface. It just means it makes it easier. So that's my candid sharing with you about how I'm doing it. But of course, you can make it your own and do it yourself. I'm going to open this up. It's got its nice new artist surface smell. Doesn't actually have any smell at all. But you know what I mean? It's like it's new, and there's always something wonderful about it being new. I love it. I love it. I love it. I'm going to, because we like to do little wishes, I have one on here. I have one for 2 wishes actually today. I'm using a watercolor pencil. I'm going to write that Joseph has some heart healing. And also, I'm going to put a wish that young people recognize that bullying is not appropriate. Not an appropriate way to express anger or frustration. And that kids today get a better way to handle their feelings. Because I think that's what we've got going on here, is we've got a bunch of kids that don't know how to handle their feelings, and we've had a lot of messages come in about bullying. And my daughter has gone through it pretty hardcore. And what I'll say on this is that I think if you're a young person and you're feeling frustrated, you may not feel like your words have power. You may not even think how they might impact somebody because you're feeling so unempowered yourself. But remember that the things you say and the way you say them can be much more impactful and powerful than you know. Even though you're young and you don't feel like you can do that much, you might be doing more than you think. And then also, if you're going through bullying, listen, reach out to your friends, reach out to your family. Don't deal with that alone. It's bigger than you know, and you shouldn't have to struggle through something like that by yourself. So, love for both sides of that fence, kids that are going through that. And I'm going to sip my coffee and jump right on in.
All right.
Are we ready for that?
Absolutely.
Okay, so when I'm doing this particular piece, I really like a kind of large round brush. The reason I listed all the materials early is so that you could figure out what this one was, figure out if you could get it in your area, and if you couldn't, what you could get approximately. What makes this brush great is that it's a really good hog bristle. You could get a mix of filaments and bristles in your brush, or you could do just bristles. But if you're going to do just bristles, you're going to want a quality one. This is a number 12 Silverstone. I'm not really going to get it that wet. I'm only going to dip just the toe of the brush in the water and drag it off. And I'm going to be using a lot of my rag because dampness is my friend. Now, I have my titanium white and I have my zinc white, and I'm going to start with my zinc white and I'm going to really load it into my brush. Can you see how that's going around here?
Oh, yeah.
And I'm going to come into this upper corner and I'm going to start to just rub this white on here around. And you're going to have to just sort of believe that I am, because obviously white on white is slightly challenging to see, right?
This is a performance art piece.
It's about a performance art piece at this edge. Now, sorry, I'm going to sneak into my Phthalo Blue. Phthalo Blue is such a powerful color.
And actually, I'm going to zoom in for everybody just so they can see that there is you can see the tone difference between.
Okay, you?
Yeah, and actually I'll zoom in. Like when I zoom in, you can definitely see that there's more blue in the paint just naturally.
Yeah, there really is.
And so it's more yellow on the canvas.
I think I may actually move my reference. So I'm wanting to put the blue up here in this little corner area. You can see I'm really softly moving this brush around. It's almost a scumble. It has a bit of a scumble to it. I'm going to bring this down. Where I have it here in the wet, I'm going to go over it very lightly, and I'm going to just feather it in a bit. I'm going to come back here, and I'm just almost like blushing, bringing this off here. I wipe my brush off a lot. I'm going to add a lot more zinc to this, and I'm going to work a little bit of that right there. You'll see me wipe out my brush into my towel a lot. Acrylic artists, we work a little bit more for some of these blended soft effects. That's all it is. We just work a little harder for it. You know, and you've got to get into it and do it. So that's just one of the things that you've got to go through as an acrylic artist. I'm going to come down here and I'm going to start to work this little low area. I can bring it up here, blending it in. And again, it's just a touch of the Phthalo Blue. Notice I haven't gotten any more Phthalo Blue. Mm-hmm. That's how powerful phthalo is. Wow. It's why a lot of landscape artists don't like it because it's not something that you easily see in the outdoors. I think you really only see it in like cornflowers and a couple other really powerfully blue flowers, in a couple of skies, and a few oceans, right? But overall, it's more muted blues that you see in landscape painting. So that's why sometimes you'll hear landscape artists go, nope, no phthalo. They're not being crazy or stuck up. They're just trying to make good strategies for their painting experience. I'm still working my zinc white. Can you guys see how I'm working it?
Yeah.
Just working it through here. There's lots of working this background. No quick trick to really get through here. There's just a method or a strategy. And you can see that I'm just taking advantage of the way the bristles will softly blend. I'm taking advantage of the fact that the zinc is transparent. And then I'm using small pigments to get an effect to move forward. Now I can come along here and I can be like, you know, I'd like a little bit of my Prussian blue into this. So I'm going to get a little of my zinc white over into my Prussian.
Now,
and I'm going to start to work that in.
CT was asking, this could be done as a watercolor.
This could easily be done as a watercolor. Enjoy the traceable and have fun doing the watercolor.
And in many ways, watercolor lends itself to these subtle cloud backgrounds.
So much more easily. I'm going to get just a little more of this here. I'm just going to move along. I think I'm going to put out a small amount of glazing medium in this too, because sometimes I won't want to glaze the pigment, a pure amount of the pigment, and I want it to be somewhat even more transparent than the paint is inherently. And this particular product slows down the drying time of the paint and is a glaze, and that's why I recommend this one, not every glaze, not every product. I don't get anything from them, like, at all to recommend it. It's just, I strongly feel that. I even have given some to my mom and gotten her all hooked on it. So, if it's good enough for my mom, it's good enough for you guys, right?
Yeah. Now,
So I'm coming with just some stronger pigment, and I'm going to just very softly add a little bit of this darker color through here. See how we're going?
yeah. Now,
We're just coming along and adding these colors. We're trying to create these distant, soft, bokeh style color spaces. Every once in a while, rinse your brush out. Don't leave it in the water at all. And then come and really dry it off on your now completely sacrificed to the canvas towel. Because there's just no way to not sacrifice it. Let's keep going back here. I'm going to get a little more of my phthalo blue on here. And a little bit more of my zinc white. And I'll come work this back corner. I wiped off too much pigment. Because again, I'm just trying to dust and work a soft amount of this on, and I don't want to overpower it. See how it's just a slow process?
yeah.
But it's a doable process. You know, and I'm not saying these are the only tools. These tools help. These products help, but of course there's other ways to get stuff done. It'd be so crazy to have just one way to get it done. And I'm just getting this first layer of dusting on. This is the first layer of paint. It certainly builds up, and then as it dries, I can glaze another little layer. And it's pretty fun how far I can take. I'm going to get a little more of this zinc here and come up here on the side, creating this sort of lighter value. Coming down. And look, I'm really working this little brush, aren't I? It's going through some stuff. I've had it forever. I've even left it in water. You can see I've left it in water a couple times. And what I mean by leaving water, I don't mean like an hour. I mean like put it in the jar, walk to the bathroom, and come back. Because on any brush, if any water gets down into the ferrule, and the way it does is that it gets into the water jar above the ferrule, it can have that kind of cracking. If you get this brush new, remember to wash it out vigorously before its first use, because you have to shake out any of the loose bristles before you start. I'm just getting a little more of my phthalo blue. I'm going to get some of my white this time, so you can see that really lightens it. It's different than the zinc. Ugh. I'm going to wipe this off. I want it to be a little bit more blue, but not so saturated, so it's about just dusting and blushing that out. See how I'm blushing it? We're using this really interesting blushing method. I've seen a lot of oil artists implement this as a strategy in their paintings around like botanicals and florals when they're trying to create an emphasis. And I'm just, again, dusting. Let's get a little bit of our zinc on there. Zinc is our friend, right? And a little more zinc. We're going to go through a lot of the zinc today. It's really a great idea if you can get zinc white, if you're getting into the more complicated paintings. I'm going to continue to wipe off. Can you see how that soft background is happening for us now?
Yeah.
All right, so I'm coming this way, going like this. Maybe a little more zinc right here. I'm going to continue to add a little blush here. I'm going to rinse out. And I'm going to evaluate my background. Like, how am I feeling about that? How is that working? Might take a sip of my coffee. I'm going to take a deep breath. Again, remember, this is a new technique to you. Take a deep breath and give yourself a break, because it can take a minute or a couple of paintings or a couple tries to practice a technique. Techniques and strategies in painting aren't just a one and done kind of thing where your teacher shows you and then you do it and you have. Do you remember, like, for those of you that are old enough to have remembered learning to write cursive? It wasn't the first time somebody showed you how to write cursive that you understood how to do those letters. It was practicing it again and again on your paper that got you there to that nice and beautiful handwriting that is now about to be lost to the ether. So
Yep.
sad. I really liked cursive. Mm. All right, now I'm going to get into some not phthalo blue, Prussian blue. So I'm really wiping off my brush, making sure it's not particularly loaded with, water, and I am working pigment through it. As you can see, I'll get a little of my glazing medium. Sometimes by putting glazing medium into a brush, it'll keep it from drying out so fast. Maybe work a little zinc into it, and let's put some Prussian, a little darker than that, little Prussian focal points. So I'm right here, and I'm just using this brush to create a nice, dusty little bit of a focal. See how that's going? Little focal. Take some of this up here. I'm the second color, blue, in this painting. I'm just being so soft about it. I like the noise it makes. Can you hear it?
Yeah, it really is nice. You actually, when you turn away from it,
Yeah?
the off-axis microphone won't pick it up. But when you get close and point your microphone at it, it can hear it, kind of.
Yeah, like right here?
Yep, oh, I have to adjust it.
Okay, that's fine.
We're all like, listen to the ASMR-ness of our
No,
brush.
we are not an ASMR channel. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that sound is cool.
It is.
Don't even remotely. I think we've done some ASMR appealing videos a bit, but we are definitely not an ASMR channel in any way. Anyway.
There we go.
Now, here I can get a little darker and be, thinking about this more, 'cause this is where some of these flowers are going to go. Let's get a little more of our Prussian in this. And we're going to just keep building these little colors and these little layers up.
I turned off the noise gate, so now we can hear the brush, but we can hear all the background noise too.
Oh no.
So,
all right, I'm going to load up a little Diox. Diox is another one of those colors that's just so powerful and so intense. I'll put out a lot more of my zinc. A lot of companies carry zinc white. You can even get a transparent white in craft paints. So it's not really that hard of a get if you understand what you're looking for. You want a transparent white. Sometimes it's called mixing white. If anyone is familiar with the craft paint lines, I'm absolutely sure that there is a version. I'm just taking the docs with a little bit of zinc, and you can see I'm just swirling this around. Making a soft, fun, fabulous little background. Let's come up here and dust up with a little bit of purple up here. Dusty dust. Because it needs it. A little bit of that purple pop. And I think we could even put a little, right here. Kind of break this up. I'm just on the tip of my brush. Now I'm not pushing that hard. I'm just trying to softly create that space. Fun stuff. Maybe down here a little bit. A little of the Diox. Because again, it doesn't take a lot, man. Doesn't take a lot. Very little, actually, in fact. Just go like that. And just, again, a little pop of color. Distant, out of focus color. That I'm going to be playing with to create my little world. I'm going to rinse out. And I think I'm going to add a little bit of my yellow through there. So I really want all the purple, if I can, out of my brush, because I won't enjoy that. So I'm going to pull it, pull it, pull it. I'm going to just make sure it's really, really out. I'm going to get a little of my yellow. Put it on there. And you can see what I do when I go around. I'm really just trying to, disperse it through these bristles. So it's lightly on there. And now I'm going to come through here. I'm going to try to add a little bit of this out of focus light. See the little bit of out of focus light? If I have to wipe off and get a little more zinc, I will. Don't you think I won't do it? And you can see I'm making these uneven little patterns here. I'm just trying to show that there's some stuff that's out of focus. Where it goes over the blue, it can go a little bit green, right? I'm going to bring some of it up here. Maybe some back even here a little bit. Just again, taking these little out of focus steps. And then you can even get a little of just a smidge of your quinacridone into that yellow, and it makes a great peach. And then I think it's real fun to get some of the zinc and work out some of that peach here. Just a little bit to begin with. See, I'm just testing that out. A little bit wiped through. Let's get a little more of our... We definitely want it to be a little more pink than yellow, and I'm just working my zinc through. So I've got that fairly well put on the brush. I'm going to come right here. If I have to wipe out, I will. And again, these are just the first little areas. You can see sometimes when I need to get control of my bigger brush, I'll move my fingers down into the head.
Let me zoom in on that.
You go here! So I'm just, again, trying to get that sense of softness starting to focus. Can you guys see the softness happening?
Yeah.
I need to lighten up this back side a bit, and I need to pull a little bit down here. So how I'm going to do that is I'm going to go right into my zinc again. But I'm going to do something powerful. I'm going to take my zinc white and mix it one-on-one with my titanium white. This is very similar to the parabola white that oil painters use. If you're an oil painter, you're like, where's my parabola white? This is kind of almost it. It's the mix of titanium and zinc. But we don't have the problems that oil painters do. Our paintings won't crack. We don't have the same crazing issues. The formulation is different, so I know oil painters need to be, crazy careful about the zinc now. But us acrylic painters, we can still go hog wild. And do what we like. So you can see how the titanium white now is adding a little more pigment, but the zinc is keeping it a little more transparent. And that's a step that we haven't really demoed on the channel, but it's an important thing to know as you're painting, that you can go titanium, titanium, and you can go zinc, zinc, zinc. And keep in mind, my knowledge of oils is sometimes more than I think it is, just because I have to understand the difference between acrylics and oils, and I've read a lot of books and took a lot of classes, but I'm not by any means an expert. So definitely take most oil questions to an expert on oils. But I am pretty good about understanding where acrylics and oils differ. So I'm going to take nope, not my Prussian. That was the wrong color. Let's see how I'm doing it. I'm going to lighten some of this back up down to the bottom. I feel like it's super saturated right now. So I'm going to really get this done. And I think actually, I'm going to take a deep breath.
Gonna breathe.
Breathe. How you guys doing?
Good. Now, you really did this to demonstrate that you could do watercolor techniques with acrylic and get those good effects.
Well, actually, watercolor does this, but this is more, I would say, in the oil boot camp.
Oil boot camp, okay.
Yeah. These are the soft stuff that you would expect from an oil project.
Gotcha. That's interesting.
I have an number 8 bright. Doesn't have to be the shape. This is what I'm going to use now because I want a shorter bristle. Why did I change? Because the bristles here are very long. The length out from the ferrule, the heel here, to the toe is obviously significantly longer. And now for the next effects, I want to shorten up that width to get a stiffer brush, something I have more control over. So I've got a couple 8s here, and that's why I use them. I'm going to get a little of my zinc into my brush. Boom, boom, boom. And just, I keep going to the Prussian, I don't know why. And I'm going to get my phthalo mixed in there. More zinc. Little titanium white. I can keep mixing them, and I'm going to just make sure that down here I am keeping this very mixed up. I'm coming back and see I'm popping like right here. I'm putting a little bit of blue in. And I'm blending this down into it. Coming back here, coming back towards the right, and I'm wiggling that brush back and forth. Let's go over here and pick that paint up again, back and forth, a little bit of the titanium, get a little bit of the zinc in there. Oh, No, pink. Wipe that out. Just because it's not the right time, and with the mix in the brush, it's going to go purple. And I'm going to just keep softly. See, it's still that scumbling stroke though, isn't it? Softly, softly working that bit of extra color back and forth. And I like to really sort of work the corner of the brush when I'm doing this method. So you can see I just push it forward. And that's why this particular tool is my favorite for this process. And come back, bringing that in. If I need to get some more white through there, I'm going to get white and titanium white. You know, and I can be like, all right, let's just, oh, I keep getting that pink. And I have to watch for that hidden trap on the palette, right? A lot of artists will clean their palette midway, you know,
Yeah.
and I think it's because of those moments, those dope Homer Simpson moments. So again, I'm mixing the titanium white and the zinc white together. And I know this isn't a fast process. A little more titanium white. But it is an effective one. And now you can see even when I'm coming up with just the titanium white, a little heavier, I can still come back and really change some of this soft blending up. Can't I? Be like, oh no, this is really wonderful. Let's go there. I think that I want to get a little more of my peach through here. So I'm going to get my, now I am going to get my quin and load it through. I'm going to get my zinc. And now that I have a good strong peach, I'm going to sneak into it, sneak into your Indian yellow and get it in there so it goes peach. I like to sneak up on it. All right, we're going to come right here. Just pull some of that through. Not too much yet, because we still have to like think about this after we put the little twigs in. That's going to be its own little journey. But these little soft colors, they help us show this out of focus winter day feeling that we're looking for. It's also fun sometimes you can get a little of your burnt sienna and your Indian yellow together, and it almost makes an iron oxide. It's a very interesting effect. I can always lighten it with my zinc. And we can also see how we can get that color.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a really great color. And you can see I'm just wiggling on that corner. And I'm pulling that out there. Maybe a little bit down here. Now, even with my thing like this, I can get even a little Prussian blue in there, and it just makes like almost this dark green. So I can come, if you're in the middle of your canvas and you divide it in half, right? So divide it in half mentally this way, divide it in half mentally this way, about right here. You can go ahead and just put a little pop of a dark color in. A little bit. See how we're doing? Start to get that distant sense of things. Rinsing that out vigorously. Okay, so the sticks and the twigs and the flowers as they go in, we've got to take some of the twigs, some of the structure of the plant, and take it out of focus, and we have to put some of it in focus. That's going to be what we're going to do is we're going to brush things sort of lightly and very loosely out of focus. And then we come back with some focused edges that we carefully come back and paint. So that's how that's achieved. Before I start this next thing, I'm going to ask John to heat my coffee, and I'll take a question or two.
Oh, okay.
So hopefully you guys are seeing how this is built a little bit.
Yes. So why don't you talk about the different techniques? That's a lot of people were talking earlier about the difference in the watercolors, the oil techniques, and how those are different used. So.
Okay, so in watercolor, what I can do is I can use a wet into wet method, and I can use wetting agents like oxgall or Golden's wetting agent, which they put into their core watercolors, but something that breaks the surface tension down in the water and allows the pigment to travel through. And that's called bloom. And so using the blooming method, I can come through with small amounts of pigment on a ideally wetted paper and drop bits down, and they will bloom out and soften, creating this very easily. Where it would be a challenge is, all right, so on a watercolor piece, my challenge would be to be able to get this part of the painting and these crisp lines. So you'd almost have to frisk it, or at least reserve it really well. Even though they're much darker than the background paper, you'd want to have sort of a clean thing. So you'd be like, how do I keep these soft washes and do this? In oils, well, this is really up their jam, to just be really honest. I would say where acrylics might have something over oils on a painting like this is cost for the same pigments. And because oil pigments can, because they'll use real cobalt, they'll use real lead. The cost of the pigments can be lower in the acrylic because we don't use marble dust as a binder, right? So it's savings there. Sometimes people are sensitive to some of the thinners and products, though. Honestly, if you upgrade into something like Classical Studios, it's like being in a lavender field. So no harm, right? Literally, it's just cold pressed oils and aromatherapy. It's so fantastic. But if you use any of the cheap stuff, it's got some real fumes. But the oils really, they live to blend like this. It's like their whole jam. Like I look at how long it takes me to get this, and I look at an oil artist with their big brush going, and I'm like, look at that. It's already softened out 5 minutes in. How lucky are they? I try not to be bitter. But I get a really good hard edge, which they struggle for. And my stuff is dry, and I can do better impasto. So it's really about what you prefer in your process.
Nice.
Okay, so now that we've seen that again.
Wow.
So we're coming back here.
We are at the new Super Sherpa.
What's the new Sherpa?
500, I guess.
Hi!
So Nikki was just like, "Hey, John, we're Sherpa," and I was like, "Oh, look over to see we have 300 people, and there's 500." And I was like, "Oh, well, that's the new that's the new Sherpa."
That's the new Sherpa. Woohoo! I'm going to work my little twigs out a little bit, and I'm going to want to work my little leaves out a little bit. Here's an interesting thing. If I put my flowers in first, right, and then come back and do the twigs, this one particular case, it may actually be easier for me because I haven't really layered the leaves that much underneath the flowers. So whereas sometimes you might have a lot of stuff coming behind a forward-facing object, in this one particular instance, we don't. So we can actually get our focals in and then do our surrounding soft things, which some of you may find easier. Now, to do these, I have Filberts, right? So Filbert is a rounded brush. It comes out a lot like a flat or a bright, but they round the edge of it. So it gives you some nice soft edges. It gives you a nice curved line. This is the black pearl, so it's got a nice tack-on filament in it. It's not going to hold up too much water. So you just want something that's going to give that to you, but it doesn't have to be this exact one. I'm just letting you know what I'm using so you know. So I'm going to dip in the water with my brush, and I'm going to dip this all the way up to the heel and drag off. And this is sort of like just getting the fluid into the filaments of my brush so I can load it. And I'm going to put out some more zinc, because zinc is going to be my friend through this, for sure. I definitely appreciate me some zinc. And it's going to be combining that zinc and titanium white a little bit to get this, result. So first I'm going to come into this brush and I'm going to load it with some zinc, and I'm going to load it with a little bit of the titanium white. And then you can go ahead and get just a little bit of the pink and just a little bit of that yellow. Can you see how I just did that on the tips there? There we go. Right into that. You can see I've gotten it now in those streaks. So right here, and I'm going to be doing my flower in this space right here. So again, if you divide that canvas in half and half, it's in the lower right area. I need to leave room, right? If I'm trying to place this, I need to leave enough room on my bottom of my flower for an ample set of leaves coming down and around. All right, so that's what you're looking for. So I'm just very lightly using, this is chalkboard chalk, just kind of going around saying, ooh, yeah, man, somewhere here. And then up here, I'm going to also create another little focal friend. So when I'm doing this leaf, this petal, I'm going to come right here and I'm going to pull this down. I'm going to pull this down nicely. I'll come next to it, pull it down, pull it down, pull it down, pull it down, pull it down. I can always go back with just a little bit of zinc and titanium white. And I come along this top edge. See how I'm doing? To finish that petal, and I'm going to just pull that down again. I don't want to take out the streaks though. I want those streaks. You can even go back and get a little more of your quinacridone very lightly on the tip and a little of your Indian yellow. See how we've done there? And just pull some of that, look at that, some of that color in there softly. But I don't want to lose any of my stuff. Now I'm going to want to come back and load back up with my zinc and load back up with my titanium white. So that's a nice mix of the two of them. I'm going to go ahead and get some more of my quinacridone on there. A smidge of that Indian yellow. That warms it up quite a lot. And right here, I'm going to make a little stroke. I'm going to go like this. And I'm going to just pull this down. That's a petal. I'll pull that down. That's a petal. Now here, down here, there's a nice little petal group. And I need a little more pink on my brush. See, I'm just going and getting these on the tips.
I'm going to come over there and zoom in on your canvas too.
Okay. So I can wait till we're zoomed in to get this in. Because I want people to really see how this is constructed. Oh, okay. Palette. So let's come here, right? Can you guys see how this brush is loaded where John zoomed in? I've got a huge amount of white in the belly and some pigment at the tip. And the reason that's nice, and actually make sure you have enough. Okay. So what I'm doing is I'm getting a little bit more because I want the base of the petal to be dark. Okay. There we go. All right. A little more. Yeah, we need RoboCam. So I'm just getting a little bit of that pigment, right? Now, the stroke is to curl in, right? Because I'm trying to imply this particular petal. So I'm going to curl this in. See how I'm doing? Curling it in. Curling that in. I've left some space between these two to curl in. I'm going to let that have a little minute to rest there a bit. I can make sure that they're at least connected. And I'm going to get a lot more of my pink on this particular one at first. And I'm going to bring in a little bit of that pink. And I'm going to come here, just pulling that down. See how I'm just pulling that down? Now I just rinsed out, right? And then I'm going to get a little more of my pink on here, maybe some zinc, but it's got much stronger pink. You can go ahead and pull a little yellow into it to warm it, but you want a much stronger pink. I'm going to come right here and press this initially out. Let's get a little more of the magenta into this. And I'm going to bring right here another kind of curved in petal. Just to about that far. And then let's go ahead and pull in an interior petal like this. See how we're doing? I'm going to let John have the camera look at that for a second so you guys can take that in because I've got to let it dry a little bit. I don't want it hard dry for the next stage, but I do want it dry so you guys seeing where those strokes are at.
Yeah.
Where those shapes are at. Now, I want to get the edges a little bit lightened so that the shape of the petal becomes more defined.
Let me come over and fix that palette now that it's
okay.
done.
Here, I'll get my water things off of here so you can move the palettes and stuff around without the inevitable giant massive spill of comedy. Not that we don't need the views. If I move it in, I think you can zoom in some. Can you zoom in some? Okay. All right. Okay. Alrighty.
There we go.
So what I need to do here to make this rose come out is I do need to create this sort of lighter edge to these petals. So I want there to be a dark depth here in the center. And I may even, for the next part, just make sure that I've got right here this pink painted almost flush with these petals here. Just so that when petals are layered over, there's a dark underbelly to like really think about. So I'm going to take a little of the pink and I get it on the tip of my brush. Again, still the number 4 Filbert. I'm going to get a little of my titanium white and a little of my Indian yellow into this mix. Because gosh, it's such a nice color, isn't it? When these two get together. So let's make sure it's there. If you had trouble getting it and you have too much paint, remember you can always offload by wiping off. Because I want a light color. See how light that is now? But I'm keeping it streaked, aren't I? Now I'm going to come right here and just on the edge tip that in a little bit, but not too much. Get a little more right here. Come along this edge just with this and then just tip this in. But not too much because I need that dark pink to help the next one show. I'm going to get a little more pink on here, but I'm going to get some zinc to lighten it a bit. And I'm going to come into this one and make sure that there's a little bit of a nice light little lip. Grab some of this white. Maybe it has some little Indian yellow in it. And then on the outside of this one, I'm going to just press down. So it's still got that dark pink right there. And then this one, I'm going to make sure that we've got some of this color pulling down. Isn't that fun?
Yeah.
So now we're building that. John's going to zoom in and let you look at that next stage. That's where we're at. You can come here, I just rinsed out my brush, and you can soften with your Filbert. See how I'm softening that?
Mm-hmm.
And it's creating a blend. You can soften this inside edge. You don't want to overwork that though. You want to get it to that soft stage. Now, there are 2 curved up petals and then an outward petal and a little kind of outlier here. So first, I'm going to get some pink into my brush. And I'll go ahead and get a little zinc because I still want this to be somewhat pink. I'm going to come right here. I'm going to press and pull. So I press down and pull in. That was lovely. A little more pink and maybe this time some yellow, just loosely mixed in, Indian yellow. Get some of my titanium white onto that. And I'm going to make 2 little petals. So this one's going to come right here. All right, see how that's going? And then it's got a little friend, maybe. I'm going to get a little more, maybe titanium white and a little pink, but because I want good coverage. And this is going to curve kind of back this way. So we'll take this and go curve. That's nice. Now, to finish those, I'm going to rinse out. There's 2 things that I want to do. I'm going to make sure that I get a little bit of my white sort of on the brush. It's got little bits of pigment in here mixed in, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to come along the edge of this little petal and pull that down. It kind of creates a uniform shape, doesn't it? Come along this here. Let's come along the edge of this one. And pull that in. We can even pull a little bit of a highlight right there. So now we just have the petal that's curved out. But before I put that in, if this is dry, it's not dry. So I have to wait for that to dry or I'm going to dry it. And I might put a little, well, actually I think I can probably get away with it now. I'm going to take some just magenta and just make sure that right here, softly, I just want to make sure that there's some dark pink. See how I'm doing? Just to create some depth in that little space there. So at some point, just make sure the center of your flower has some depth to it. You can't really get these wrong though, so you're under nominal pressure for any of it. Let's get this little guy that's bent out. So I'm going to get my pink all loaded into my brush. And I'll get my zinc into that because I still want it to be quite pink. And this stroke kind of bends back. So the longest part of it, I'm going to come right here and I'm going to press and I'm going to bend that back. I'm ending it into the flowers there. There we go. Let's get some more paint. Maybe bring the brush stroke in a little bit, but that's what I'm trying to do, is talk about that little petal that's bent out. There we go. Now, I can get a little of my Indian yellow on there and come from the base of the flower and pull that out just to give it some color. Let's work this all in, a little more pink. And I can loosely get some white onto this. That's the titanium white, which has got a little more of the pigment in it. Come along this edge and create a defined edge very gently. Pull in a slightly lighter outer lip. Maybe along there. That's pretty nice. It's a quite lovely little flower, I think. I'm going to sip my coffee. John's going to go on close so you can see everywhere the flower is at. Can you guys see where that is?
Oh, yeah. It looks really good, too.
It looks really good, too. So one thing I can do is, you could probably use the 4, but I'm going to get down into a number 1. I'm going to dip in here. And I'm going to go ahead and get a little bit of my titanium white on my brush. And I'm going to come along the edge of this petal with this little fine white line. See how we're doing? And I really want to come along the edge of this petal. Let's come in here, even pull a little bit down. See how we're creating those like nice defined little lines? Maybe a little bit in here. Just a little something to show the definition of each little petal. Just gentle. Are they starting to pop for you now? It's real soft. Just blend that, blend it, blend it, blend it. You can always go back and get some of this color and a little glaze. And remember, you can come back with your paint and be like, no, I want this to have a little dark shadow, or I want that to have a little dark shadow right here. Look at this, we're going to pop this even more. So don't feel like you can't really sculpt out what you've got. A little glaze. And come up here and show that little dark bit coming up. So now we have a much more realistic pose that we painted, but it's not quite as intense or involved as you might think. I still feel like I've got an adjustment here on this little end petal. So I'm going to get my zinc into it. If you'll notice, a little glaze. Because I do want that white, but I want this petal to have, see this little color? I want it to have the little color differential. So a little bit of this, and you can always get some of that Indian yellow. Again, just making sure that this one has that little bit of color differential that I'm looking for. So John's going to zoom in and let you guys see that really close. Does it all feel like a rose to you?
I think so.
All right. Just fussing with it. It's interesting to see the painting here, and I'm just blending this, making sure that this outer petal is really quite. It's fun to me. All right, I could futz with it all day. Like all day. So we have a beautiful little one up here, right? So we're going to get a little of our Indian yellow and a little of our magenta together. They're a nice combo. Get our zinc. And I'm going to make a little petal right here. Pull down. Pull down. Look at us pull down. A little more color. Has a little friend next to it. Maybe this one is a little bit longer. Pulling down that petal shape. A little more here. And that one I kind of curve the opposite direction. See how I did that? Get a little more pink. Friend could curve right there. I'm letting that paint bead and help shape that flower. Now I can get almost into a little bit more of my titanium white, and I can come over here and press down that one. I'm going to press down one in the center that's kind of like a petal facing you. Now this one is going to be a little bit curved like that. I get a little more pink, and then maybe this one curves around like that. So that's how we get to see that particular flower's little bit of upward petals. I can wipe my brush off and get a little more zinc if I want to get some outer edge drama. Look at that. See how we can do? And create that sense of like, ooh, it's really gorgeous. You can even come back and get a little of your pink. Maybe it picks up some yellow. And come back in and define this little petal with a bit of a shadow. Look at that.
Mm.
Fun stuff. Once we have those in, then we can start talking about things like leaves, branches, and those things, because we can kind of put them around and we'll know where we're softening and where we're creating some harder, well thought out things. So on the leaves, what I did is I did a little bit of my phthalo blue and my burnt sienna is how I got that kind of like deep blue green that I've got going there. I'm going to use some glazing medium just to make sure I've got nice flow. And this particular leaf is going to have an interesting shape. It's going to come from here. I'm going to stroke up. That's going to make a little bit of a point. Come inside that and stroke a little bit again. And maybe one more. I'll fill this in somewhat with this dark color. Maybe this time I get a little bit of my darker blue on here. You can see I'm adding more blue. And I'm going to come underneath. And then that's how I'm going to curve up that inside petal. So you can see there's a darker value right there. Then what you do is, very interestingly enough, you just get a little of your zinc white and just highlight it a bit. If you need to, you can get a little of your titanium just to... Because what you're trying to talk about is the shadows that happen inside the leaf and the curl. Can you see how that's a curled leaf?
Yeah, I think so.
You can always come back through and just make sure that that's as defined as you need it to be. And it should be fairly set for you. Now let's take a little bit of this into this again. And let's make a little stem and a leaf that goes out, maybe in a more traditional way that we think of leaves. I'm going to go ahead and add a lot more blue to my brush, and I'll get some of my titanium white so I can see it. I'm going to come from a little bit back the stem, and then very loosely on the tip of my brush kind of paint out this little leaf. Now I'll go ahead and get a little more zinc on there. I'm going to, this half of the leaf, I'm going to paint with this light color. And then I'm going to grab some Just Prussian. So that's almost 2 colors, right? I'll wipe off and I'll get a little of my zinc and I'll come on the outside edge. Even feather back, and then I get this nice little shaded leaf that's coming out. I can get a little of my Prussian blue and grab just a bit of your Indian yellow. It's very interesting. It makes a very deep kind of green. Add zinc. I'm going to turn my canvas, John, to the side. I'll let you come up here. I'm going to turn my canvas to be comfortable with the shapes and angles that I'm having to work. So now I'm under this bottom petal. I'm going to curve this down. This is a curved back leaf, right? So I come on along the back edge. And then I can even come along this, defining that, and you can soften that there. Soft little leaves. Going to be so much fun for John. He's going to be like, what? Just a little fellow there.
Well, it's not like I have to go over there and move him. He does it himself. I just say, scoot over.
That's true. That is a helpful part of that. Now this one is going to be, I'm almost going to have to turn my reference upside down so they're in the same place. So if I have this here, he's going to come right here. Now I start this one, I'll be like, I'm going to come here and make a little mark, and then this leaf I'm going to shape with my brush strokes. Stop at that petal. And that's just a little bit of the Indian yellow and the Prussian blue. And if I have that where I like it, I'll wipe off the extra pigment and get a little bit of my zinc. And I'm going to come in here and just make sure that I'm painterly. This is almost like the snow on the leaves. Can you see how that's working out? Let's get a little bit of our brown going again. And we're going to say, hey, no way, man. There's a little leaf coming out here. Little of my blue mix that's over here. Now to make this half of this leaf shape this dark blue and brown color. Then I'm going to come on the other side with a little bit of my zinc. See what I'm doing? I'll just bring some of this back into the stem. And let's just say that tucked behind all of this, maybe coming out here, is this nice dark leaf. Like this. I'm going to let John get in there where he's showing you up close how that's done.
Which one? I'll go down.
The flower. I just think that might be helping. Like if you guys can see a close-up of it on what it looks like finished, that maybe you can kind of know where you're going. You can freeze the video there and give it a look. Because I know how much you guys really want to be able to do this. So I'm just trying to be real chill and go at a speed where you're like, yep, I got it. So that's our goal. Our goal is the yep, I got it goal. All right.
I'm going to sip my coffee too.
Are you?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to take a little of my Indian yellow and my burnt sienna mixed together, and I'll go ahead and grab a little of my Prussian here. And this makes a brown stick, but it's like a stick that's not so thought about. And I'm going to just make a little tapped base of this particular piece, and then I'm going to come right here, press out a little bit to the corner, and very loosely I'm going to press down, come up here.
Now, which brush is that?
This is still the number 4 Filbert, but I could probably switch to my number 2. I might when I get in the rest of the twiggly bits, but for right now I'm going to just go this. At the end of this, I'm going to get a little of my zinc. And at the end of this little thing, I'm going to lighten this up with my zinc. I'm going to take some of my zinc down. Let's get a little more of our brown on there and say Maybe at the bend here, bring a little leaf out. I'm going to loosely sketch it at first with my brown. See how I'm making this little leaf sketch?
Yeah.
You guys have a traceable. If you're like, man, I cannot draw, that's not happening. And then get a little of my just blue on the tip without rinsing out my brush. Then let's go ahead and just get some brown. So this is sort of a little tipped up shape again. Let's bring a little leaf shape right there. So now we have that and that. That's looking pretty good. Now I want to wipe off my brush and I'm going to get right there into the zinc. And I'm going to just make sure that some of this is very soft and light, so it feels a little faded into the background. Can you see that with the zinc?
Yeah.
Because we're wanting to push some of it back, and that's going to be really important to do. Now that I have this here, and I can see everything a little bit closer, I may come back with a little bit of my number 8, or actually, let's be fussy and get down into our number 4. Just so we're not worried about room. I'll get a little bit of my Indian yellow loaded on there. And a little bit of my brush. If I want to, I can get some burnt sienna, but mostly I want it to be the Indian yellow. No Prussian. And I can come along this, along the edge of this flower. And I'm going to just very carefully blush and highlight this area. I'll go right over my stem. See how we're doing? If that needs a little more brown in it, we'll get a little more brown. Keeping it zinky though. Keep it zinc. Make sure that there's a little bit of that there. See how we're doing? Just brushing and blushing. Brushing and blushing. Just keep it chill. I'll pick up my number 2, maybe put a little bit of one stem back. Boom, boom, boom. Boom, boom, boom. Look at that. Dip in my paint because I'm not having good flow. Come back to this. Oh, that's good. That's good stuff. So I have this weird little stick over here and some light little kind of reddish brown branches. So I'm going to take my burnt sienna and I'll make sure I've got some glazing medium on there. I'm going to come here and I'm going to say, no, there's a little bit of a distant little stick here. Let's come down here and make some distant little sticks down here. See how we're doing? We're going to be here and say, there's definitely something that comes over this way. And it's pretty transparent. It's a weird little deal. So you're going to have to come back. See how I'm using the glaze? Because I need some of this to be soft and transparent with a hard edge. That is its own little journey to get. I'm going to come up here with this particular part of the stick. Again, see how transparent that is? And I'm still using this because this is going to help me kind of lay in my little space here, right? Come over. Let's break a bend in this stick here. Little joint and out. So I know where that is. I just want it mostly glazed and I don't want this painted all the way out, so I just know where that is. I'm going to take some of this up here. Again, we're super soft now, aren't we? Because some of this needs to be out of focus. Little stick off here. New one there. See how softly I'm painting? A little brown, a lot of glaze. Let's break up here. Say we've got some coming up. You can kind of wander and have a little ball right there. Maybe one right there. A little bit of brown. Smidge of blue. You can come right here and softly make this out of focus little shape. There's one little one that comes back. I'm going to get just a little bit of my blue on now, but I'm still going to use my glaze. I come along the top of this. See how it's transparent. And this is going to come back. Maybe a little more through there, but I'm building up slowly. I'm not giving it all I've got right away. So once those structures are down, I can take my smaller brush and I can get a little of my yellow and a lot of my pink, right? And some of my titanium white. Get this great peach. It's a fantastic peach. And I can come right here and just scumble this bokeh. Look at this bokeh go. Let's take some through here and break this up. You can come out here. You can even go over stuff you have. It's transparent enough where it's gonna, look, it pushes it back, doesn't it? Come back into this space. Now some nice little space. You can imply little dustings of green if you take a little bit of your blue, your Prussian blue, and a little of your Indian yellow. You'll get a nice little green. You can get your zinc involved. And you can come right here. Just a little bit of green right there. There's some right here. I'm going to get a little more yellow into it because I want it a little bit brighter. There we go. How about a little bit of green right here in the crux of these two branches? Little pops of color. Let's take some around. I think this around that pink will make it really pop. I don't want it to be too strong, so if I have to, I'll wipe off my brush. And look how softly I'm going to blush that here. You can do that. Now, with this brush still, I'm going to keep going with this brush for a second because I want real soft effects. So I'm going to make sure it's rinsed out. I'm going to get a little of my brown on here. I'm going to get a little of my blue on here. I'm definitely get some zinc so it's a little bit sort of softer. I'm going to come right here. And I'm going to brush softly these little stick shapes, but they're a little bit out of focus, aren't they? Little one there. Maybe that one comes down that space right here. Get a little more of my Prussian, a little more of my zinc white. Like right here, it could be quite light. Come back here. Come up. Just a little bit thickened with that. Isn't that interesting how that goes?
Yeah.
Come back up. Maybe I'll talk about that a little bit. It's just important to keep these things soft because if you keep them soft, you're going to get a really nice effect. Now, I'm going to get a little bit of my burnt sienna. And I'm going to come down here and add that. You can see I've added that. Maybe underneath this, I kind of add that. Indian yellow on there. Joint those up. Look at that. Just blend those through. Isn't that nice? So you have, I'm going to put a little Indian yellow around that. There we go. So we're just talking about these things a little bit, letting them be fuzzy. I'll come back with my number 2 Filbert. I'll get a little bit of my burnt sienna and my Prussian blue. And some of these edges I will go ahead and make hard. It is those play between the soft and hard edges that's going to help it be out of focus. It's going to help it be what it needs to be. Let's put some back here, but not all of it. So you see, you just give it some, but not every bit.
This is really awesome.
Isn't this fun? Now I'm going to take a little of my titanium white, but it's okay if it has a smidge of the Prussian in it. It doesn't have to be a pure white. It just needs to be kind of bright. And I'm going to come right here, and on this with this brush, I'm going to tap out a little white along the stick. See how we're doing?
Yep.
This is before I splatter for snow.
Now,
I'm going to put a little maybe right here.
someone was noticing that the picture-in-picture is way lighter than the one that you're doing now.
Yeah,
And that's
maybe.
just probably has to do with either.
No, I mean, because you can put them there. I don't think it's a color balance. I think whenever you do these soft backgrounds, you're going to have a little bit of
differences. See, so there's the original one that she did, and you can see it's really pretty close to the picture-in-picture. The picture-in-picture may be a little bright.
Now, some of when it's going to lighten up is when I splatter it. Those little splatters of light color will knock it back. You can also come through and say, all right, you know, where do I want to lighten it back up? So if I've got zinc here, I can say, all right, I want to maybe come along the little edge of this and pull this down. Just get a little more zinc. And I want to come right here and maybe play that petal there. That one's actually pretty good, but I could come back and lighten this up again. Let's push this back. Zinc is wonderful for being able to push stuff back. And if I want to come and lighten this around the outer edge, what I would do is I'd put out some more zinc. Get my number 8. Load it up. And just lighten this a value or two. See how we're doing? So you can, this also works if you're trying to put stuff into mist and fog. If you have to push a forest back, you can use this method to paint something a little brighter. See how easy it is for us to push it back? Just with the zinc. Just same kind of process though, I'm scumbling. There we go. See, we pushed that stick back, haven't we? Come underneath here. There you go. Right over that leaf, we'll push that back a little bit. So anywhere you want to knock it back, you just can. Wipe off if you have too much. So if you feel like that's too bright, that's how you would fix it. You know, I might grab a little of my Indian yellow onto my brush and a smidge of my Prussian, if I can get the color. So a lot more Indian yellow than Prussian, but somehow slightly to the green. Wiped off, and lots and lots and lots and lots of zinc. There we go. Let's take that a little bit more to the So you can just keep pressing it, because you guys have hours. I only have a short amount of time to like futz with something, but you guys have hours and hours and hours at which you can do it. You know that you've got time. Okay, back to what we were doing before we got waylaid.
Distracted, but that's okay. This is good stuff that we needed. Like, people really like to see that, you know, you paint these and there is some variation in them.
Yeah, there is. People that expect me to paint like the exact same photocopy every time, I probably will be disappointing them because I'm not a copy machine.
And for those of you who haven't had a chance to go through the epic library of paintings she has, all the time we have to bring out her show steady and hold it next to the one she painted on the show because they're so close. We have to like count stars or branches to figure out which one was on the show versus not.
Now, when I'm at this stage, right, I'm going to go ahead and do my splatter. If you don't have a good splatter method or good splatter tool and you're happy with the painting, it might be good to just skip this. But if you have watched my many splatter videos, and I'm sure my mods know where all those videos are because I have videos on how to splatter with every kind of tool, lots of methods, not just the brushes that I have, but I've shown you guys lots of ways to splatter. I do think a tool like this, the golden fluid or Holbein's fluid, one of those two, I think that that's the way to go. And I've got a plug here, so I'm going to just pour a little bit of this out. So you can see the consistency of this paint is very different than my heavy body paint, and that's why it's successful in splattering. The other thing that's going to make me successful is that this particular tool really gives me a nice dispersion. That's why I designed it. That's why I made it. It looks like a toothbrush, but it is not a toothbrush, because you would never ever want to brush your teeth with this. When I use it, I like to work the paint into it so that when I go to splatter, it comes off the brush very nicely. And I do this before the butterfly because I don't actually want any of the dots on the butterfly. The dots can change the nature of the painting so much that I just don't. You can see now I'm snowing up the painting. See how the snow comes on? But that little bit of snow that you added to the branches, that does help it appear snowy. And you can see as I add these white dots, it also lightens the composition a good bit too visually. So that will lighten the composition. Using the zinc will lighten the composition, whatever you need to do. Now I'm going to rinse this out, but let me tell you a little trick if you have one of these of mine. And they are fantastic. They are by nature, because these are the Sherpa white filament, which was designed for me by Silverbrush. They go right into this wood head. And so even though I never leave this in water and I shake it and I do it out, it's always going to have little cracks and problems with the finish. None of the bristles unseat, and honestly what you want is just the stiff filaments in this wide dispersion, so it's fine and normal for it to do that. Now, my wonderful, gorgeous, fabulous, fantastic little butterfly. But let me sip my coffee and answer a couple questions before we do the butterfly.
Good.
John could heat my coffee. That would be amazing.
Can you explain why, and I know that you all of this, why sometimes splatter gets stringy?
Well, if you are thinning heavy body paint with water and you are doing maybe the whack method or some other method to disperse it, sometimes the rheology, that's the way that the paint sticks together, the chains of paint, will become such with the water that you'll get like these string splatters, right? So that's really a problem about how you're thinning your paint, which is again why I like to really recommend doing a fluid paint or soft body paint. By the way, craft paints are soft body paint. So yes, do I think that this is totally worth the money? I do, but you know, we all have different budgets. And so, you know, you've got to make your budget work. Go craft paint, go, you know, any of those paints. Watch my splatter videos. Always test your splatter on something. Do one spray before you do this, because if you've had a problem with the mixture, if you're doing the 2-brush whack method, like you're just whack, you're going to want to test that on something before you hit your canvas with it. It's a fabulous technique, but it's one that needs a test before you launch it at your fine art. It's one of those things that you're definitely going to want to do. So at this stage, I think it's fun to take it in. I think there's a lot of fun stuff that you can add to the piece that can make it cheerful. I really like the butterfly. Do I understand roses and butterflies are not out in the snow? Yes, I do. All entomologists everywhere. It's okay. John got distracted. he's like, package, and he came to the door. In other news, look, Dr. 13, I got my total tribute here. Just saying. You guys are watching Doctor Who. I've got my little homage on today. Hopefully I'm not getting my new sweater all splattered.
Right. Nope. So, I'm ready when you are.
Are you ready when I am?
Absolutely.
All right. So I'm going to do the butterfly. I'm going to use my smaller brushes for that. So in this arsenal, I've got a number 2 and this number 2. I'm probably going to stick with this, though, I'm thinking. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just get my Prussian blue and my Phthalo Blue, and I'm going to mix them together. And this is going to be almost my deepest color, almost like a chromatic black. I'm going to come to this part of the, excuse me here, I'm going to move this closer because it's really hard for me to crack my neck to the right. I should move my stuff over here, actually, thinking of a redesign. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to just make, at first, the little body. So it's just a little tap. And we're just going to come out like this. I just know I want him landing like this almost. There we go. I'll do some finishing work, with like a little detail or something, but that's how I'm going to get that. So that's about the length of the body, and you can see that's a nice dark color. You can always come back with a little more Prussian and like layer this up, and I may even have to get my glasses on so I can see him well enough. Little vision enhancers. He's a lot of fun to paint. I think he's completely worth it. So really initially I build him with my Phthalo Blue and a little bit of white. Get my Glazing Medium. So I'm going to build the initial part of him here. So I'm going to come right here and tap out a little wing that comes out like this. Let's bring another one up about the same length. I think it's fun to kind of sketch these in like this. So you can see that the wing is longer at the tip and kind of curls back. So you can look at butterflies to make a decision about how you might want to do your butterfly. This is zinc, but just getting the paint to improve. And I'm going to start painting the base of that wing in. He's a pretty little fellow. So I'm pulling the stroke towards the butterfly throughout this whole affair. And the reason that I'm doing that is so that the brush stroke also implies the wing. See how we're doing? Kind of like the brush stroke sort of implied the flower. And get a little bit more and be very careful and attentive on these back ones. So this one goes over the first one a bit, but it is a much smaller little wing. Get this one right here, and you can see I'm just loading up paint because I need that first layer for the butterfly. And that one I'll bring out here. And again, same thing. Paint that all in and just make sure that everything is like kind of covered and coated. Now, at the base of his little wings, I'm going to get some of I might get some dots and some Prussian, dipping in water to improve flow. I'll come along here and make a little shadow. And I'm going to just this deep royal blue at the base between the body and the wing, just feathering that out. A little bit along the shadow there. And again, feather it out there. You can always come along the top to help define that shape. I'm going to rinse a little bit. I sometimes think it's nice to get a little green, so I'm going to get a little of my Indian yellow and my blue, and I'm going to make a bright green. I'm going to grab my zinc so it really shows. And let's come right here. Add that little pop of green. Maybe there's some right here. Just every little place you can just be like, oh no, maybe a little bit right there. You can pop little bits of color here and there, different places to just show the colorful. I mean, this is really, once we put the butterfly in winter, we pretty much made a fantasy butterfly. So I feel like we can do what we like.
It's the ice butterfly.
He's an ice butterfly. That's what he is. +3 for attack. +3 for psionic attack. Butterfly brain drain. All right. So, like 3 people started laughing hard. I'm going to add this pink pop right here. I think it's real fun. I'm going to come here and add another little pink pop. These little pops of color are really wonderful. Let's get some of our actual color on there, like our pure color. If I need glaze, I'll get it on. And we just really want to talk about the shape of the wing. See how I'm doing? I don't know if my head's covering it, but...
Nope, you're good.
What we're doing, we're trying to talk about the shape of the wing. Get a little more of my blue here. Come along outside. Define this. Brush in. Because again, we want this nice value set, right? Let's come on the outside edge. I'm just making sure that there's nice value differences between everything. I got to come back with a little pink and maybe this time a little titanium white because it needs a better bit of coverage, right? So it's worth fighting for in this particular fellow to get exactly what you're trying to get. Now, the outer edge, I'm going to take a little bit of my brown, and it can have just a smidge of my blue into it, but I want it to read as brown. I'm going to just pull this along here. Just tip this edge here. See how we're just tipping these little edges? Get this on my brush. And let's make a very fine little line coming out. Another fine little line coming out. Just really think about those little edges. What's wonderful is I can go right into my Indian yellow with a bit of the brown. I add just a smidge of the white. Look at that pop. I'm going to come along inside this little wing. I'm going to touch a little bit of this color a couple places. Isn't that fun? Now, on the inside of him, I'm going to get a little of my maybe a little titanium white and zinc white mixed together. And I'm going to come and go reflection, reflection. Maybe a couple back here. I have so much of my fluid white out, I can even take advantage of this. So if you pull your filbert into a point, which you can do, you can get a little bit of the white on there, like I have here. Little dot of a reflection, smaller dot. Let's create a highlight down the thorax. Okay.
I like it.
We got to sign it, guys.
Yeah, I like it.
I'm going to go ahead and get a signature brush, which is this one, and I'm going to put some Prussian on it. Go ahead and get into my fluid white, loosely mixed. And I'm going to come over here in this lower snowy corner, maybe a little more Prussian. Make a nice little signature. So that is how I made winter roses, and hopefully that is how you are going to make winter roses. Any questions right before you hop off? Because it's the last minute to ask me anything. Don't panic. But totally panic. No.
I think that actually you've covered so many of them. Everybody's just been so excited. They've been lots of Who commentary. They love the outfit you're wearing.
Thank you.
Lots of support for the doctor and all of your fandom. So
Oh. Yeah,
I
well,
will
we all
say
have
thank
fandom,
you
don't
to
we?
everyone.
Listen, you can do this. If you want to do this, if you're determined, and if you can commit to not giving up because a little thing goes wrong, you can make this painting. Practice the techniques. Create those skills. Remember, you don't do them like one and done. It's not just like I demo it and you're like, oh, I understand how to blush perfectly. You're going to practice, and it's okay to need to. You can do it. If you hang in, you can paint this. Be good to yourself. Be good to each other. And I want to see you at the easel really soon. Bye-bye.